Spooky season movies don't always have to be scary or bloody. Sometimes I'm just in the mood for a fun family movie that takes place during Halloween. Now, the new Netflix film, The Curse of Bridge Hollow, is geared towards families and it features some unique ideas. But can it deliver on the story? A father and his teenage daughter are forced to team up and save their town after an ancient and mischievous spirit causes Halloween decorations to come to life and wreak havoc. So this stars Priya Ferguson, and you'll recognize her from her character of Erica on Stranger Things. And then it's also got Marlon Wayans, Kelly Rowland, Rob Riggle, John Michael Higgins, and Lauren Lapkus. Now, the movie centers around Priya's character, Sydney, and her family as they move to a new town to just escape the city. Now, they move right around Halloween, and the town basically just goes nuts with decorations. The problem is that Marlon's character, he hates Halloween, and he doesn't want his family to take part in any way. So on Halloween night, somebody accidentally unleashes a spirit that begins to take over all of the decorations in the town, and then making the father-daughter duo have to band together in order to stop the craziness. So if you've got small kids, there might be a few sequences in this that are a little frightening. The decorations that the town puts up are very impressive. I mean, even when they're not moving around. Like there are zombies, witches, skeletons. I mean, pretty much anything that you'd expect to find around that time of year. But with the quality of somebody who has an in with a prop department of a movie studio. And the special effects are done really well, especially with all those decorations that come to life. Once we see a few do it, we then get to see these static decorations that are scattered around town, and we know that some are just going to cause huge shivers to creep up our spine based on what's hanging around outside of a house or a building should they come to life. Now, the story on its surface is cute and it's somewhat enjoyable. It's only 90 minutes long, so it's a quick and tight watch. It doesn't really waste any time and just dives right into the story and the action. Now, there's some comedy in here that works to varying degrees also. Not every actor that gets jokes are funny with every delivery, but each of them does get an opportunity to have at least a couple that land well. Now, the story is easy to follow, and because of the quick succession of events, the time rushes by. And some of the characters in this are enjoyable because of just how silly and ridiculous they are. And yeah, I mean, the acting is forced a lot of the time, making the comedy in those scenes also mostly forced, but the script allows for a lot of dry humor to play out, especially with Rob Riggle, Lauren Lapkus, and John Michael Higgins. They deliver most of their comedy in a deadpan fashion, which I think works, even when their characters are cringy in the deliveries. Now, with the main characters, there are moments that I really like them and their performance. But on the whole, I wasn't clicking at all with the way that the characters were crafted and then directed. Priya Ferguson is snarky, sarcastic, and even rude. And while that works well when she's directing it at her teenage brother in Stranger Things, here it's constantly directed at her dad. And it's just an immediate turnoff at what a snot she is. I mean, there was nothing funny about those sequences. And instead, the only thing really that came across was that she was an entitled, whiny brat. Any sympathy that could have been created because of the story arc of her just trying to figure out her own path, which then could be different from that of her father's dreams, I mean, it's completely lost. I couldn't feel any sympathy for the character because of her attitude. And then with Marlon Wayans, the dude's oftentimes plays it a chump. I mean, I get bumbling, awkward, shy, or even afraid of things. But there were so many scenes where he's just a whiny scaredy cat. And again, I mean, it's not that he's afraid of things, because we all have fears and stuff that freaks us out. But even when his daughter's in danger, I mean, he's cowering and whimpering. Only until much later in the film, when he gets a pep talk from his daughter, does he begin to have a bit of courage. Now, I didn't want him played as some macho tough guy, but to have him act like the equivalent of a 5-year-old, it's not effective either. And I mentioned how quick the pace is and how easy the story is to follow. Well, that's true because the story, it just leaves chunks of conversations out, so he can just bounce from scene to scene. The action keeps the momentum going, so we don't really ever have to question any interactions or plot conveniences. And the chunks that are missing, they're probably not pivotal, but it really does feel like interactions between characters had taken place, but never shown, as there are references to those conversations that we never saw. So this all puts the movie into a weird spot. The writing and the story are thin, so young kids will still watch and have a great time. But it's also got imagery that could freak them out, so it may not be a good option for young kids. And then with the whole attitude and behaviors of the main character, I mean, I wouldn't want my little kids to emulate that when they were little. And while I think that teens and even adults can have fun with this, especially because the special effects look great and there is some really good dry humor that works, the story again is so thin that it could annoy you if you dwell on it. I mean, if you just go into this as a very casual watch and you don't think about the story, its holes, or its conveniences, then it's not a half bad time. So overall, the special effects and the dry humor help to redeem this, but the plot conveniences and lack of story depth, combined with behaviors and attitudes of the lead, sour this to make it an unenjoyable experience when thought about for more than a few minutes. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and a bunch of violence. I give The Curse of Bridge Hollow 1.5 out of 5 couches. That's a bummer. I was really looking forward to this. But what's a good family movie for the spooky season? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.